Thailand has received an enormous amount of hype for being one of the most popular places to retire or live if you are a digital nomad. We've all seen the hundreds and hundreds of videos right here on YouTube promising everyone that you can get a luxury condo for around $100 and your monthly expenses will be around $500 maximum. In this video, I want to talk to you about what it's really like to live in Thailand, as well as present to you the pros and cons from my actual experience of living here in Thailand. I think after hearing all of this information about the pros and cons, I think you'll be able to make a more informed decision about whether you would like to live in Thailand as a retiree, a digital nomad, or whether you would just be interested in visiting just for a short amount of time. So let's get started with the pros. The first pro of living in Thailand is pretty straightforward. It's the affordability, the cost of living. So like so many other people have unpacked or discussed, living in Thailand as far as rent, food, clothes, etc. is much less expensive than living in a place like the United States, certain parts of Europe, and Canada. So you could get an apartment, a regular apartment, not luxury, for around $500 to $1,000 per month. Now, this apartment usually is going to be 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom, and a lot of times there will be a separate cost for utilities. Unless you book your apartment through Airbnb, usually if you get an apartment here in Thailand, there will be a separate cost for utilities, which will end up making your rent much more expensive each month. Another thing that's very affordable here, as you might already know, is food and transportation. If you're willing to use the BTS or any public transportation system here in Thailand, you're obviously going to be able to save a lot of money each and every month. If you're also willing to do things like use Grab, which is Thailand's version of Uber, rather than have your own car or rent a car and drive here in the city, you're also going to save a ton of money every month. So a good example of this is just yesterday, I used the BTS to go to a location that's about an hour away from my apartment, and that only cost me around $2.80. And if you count that both ways, you're going to be paying less than $5 on a daily basis for things like public transportation. Another thing is the food. Like I mentioned, the food here is very inexpensive, whether you're going to a restaurant or going to the grocery store. Your bill for food will be much cheaper here in Thailand. But there are a couple of caveats that I want to throw in there for you to consider. If you live in a more popular area of Thailand, your rent is automatically going to be more expensive. How do you know it's a more popular area? Well, when you walk around that area, you're usually going to see nothing but tourists living there. When you live in an area like that, then you need to know that your rent then is going to range anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 per month. Because any area where there's a lot of tourists, we all know that the prices increase. So related to pro number one, my pro number two is that Thailand has an excellent public transportation system. It's just as efficient and just as reliable as the public transportation system that we have in the United States. It's very clean, it's very modern. It is oftentimes very packed, not as packed as the public transportation system that I showed you when I was in Japan, but it can get very packed on the train, especially during peak hours. So that is something you need to keep in mind. But if you're thinking solely about your budget and how much you will spend, if you're willing to take public transportation every day, then you will save a lot of money here in Thailand each and every month. And it also, at least in my experience, is a very comfortable experience riding and using the public transportation system. So for me, that is a huge plus. To never have to worry about how you're going to get around in a big city and always have a reliable form of transportation at any hour of the day is a huge plus to living here in Thailand. Pro number three for me is that here in Bangkok specifically, you will get this beautiful fusion of nature and city life vibes. So one of my favorite things to do on a daily basis is do things like take a long walk in a park Thailand has a number of huge parks and green areas for its residents to enjoy. And I think this is a huge plus of living in Thailand. If you're a person like me and you really like the fast paced environment of a city while also being able to disconnect from the city and enjoy nature to its fullest, then you will enjoy your time in Thailand. I cannot recommend enough. If you do come here to Thailand, either to live, to visit, or to retire, you have to take time out and enjoy the nature that is around you, because the nature that is available in Thailand is infused with interesting animals, interesting parts of the culture, interesting parts of the city fused in with the nature. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of being able to live in Thailand, being able to kind of live in two worlds, live in a big city while also connecting to nature at the same time. Another really huge pro of living in Thailand for me is the ease of finding co-working spaces and cafes where you can work remotely and have access to free Wi-Fi. So if you are a digital nomad and you really don't like the idea of having to work from home every single day, Thailand has an enormous amount of remote work facilities. Now, obviously, a lot of these remote work facilities, especially the more luxury ones, there is a monthly fee for using them. But I think it's really valuable to go ahead and use them, especially when you first come to Thailand, because this will offer you a way to meet other digital nomads, as well as an opportunity to get out of your apartment every single day and get acclimated with the public transportation system. So when you sign up to work at these remote places, you'll usually have to use the public transportation system to get to these places each and every day. So what that will do is give you an opportunity to eventually become an expert on how to use the public transportation to get all over the city. So I would highly recommend, if you are a digital nomad or you're just a person that is studying something and you want to get out of the house to actually study it, then sign up for one of the co-working spaces or find a really great coffee shop and make sure you go to that coffee shop every single day to finish your work. So the last pro I would point out as very important to understand if you're looking to retire or become a digital nomad in Bangkok specifically is the safety and walkability. That's one of the most incredible parts of living in Thailand, and specifically Bangkok, Thailand. It doesn't really matter the hour of the day that you want to leave your house and go somewhere. You can rest assured that you will be safe leaving your house at any hour, going to the store, going to an event, going to, I don't know, shop or get something last minute. You can rest assured that you will make it to your destination and back without having to experience certain crimes that are really prevalent in places like the US and Canada, such as robbery, murder, rape, and other forms of violence. Those things obviously happen here, they happen everywhere, but in general, especially if you live in a really nice area, you really won't have to deal with any of those things in Thailand. And really being able to take a deep breath, especially as a solo traveler, and know that you are safe in your neighborhood if you need to go out at any given time, really does take a huge weight off of your shoulders when you are traveling or living in another country. So that would be pro number 5. So now that I've mentioned those 5 pros, I want to jump right into the 5 cons that I'm going to present in this video. The first con that I want to talk about briefly in this video has to do with traffic and infrastructure. Anyone who has visited Thailand, especially Bangkok, this is not true in all areas of Thailand, but especially Bangkok, knows about the notorious nature of the traffic. As soon as you jump into a car here in Bangkok, Thailand, know that you will not get to your destination when you expect. You need to add a lot of time to that to be able to get to your destination. An example of that is maybe 2 days ago, I used a Grab, which is Thailand's version of Uber, to get to a location that was about 30 minutes away. It took 2 hours due to the heavy traffic. So that's something you need to consider if you are thinking about retiring, moving, or even visiting Thailand, specifically Bangkok. The traffic is a beast in Bangkok. You will be stuck in traffic forever. Now, there are ways to avoid this by using the BTS system, which is the train system, or by using a moto taxi. Those moto taxis tend to zoom in and out of traffic, and they can get you to your location much faster. But you have to think, sometimes you're going to the airport and you're traveling with luggage. Sometimes you're going to a place where you have to take a lot of things with you, so you can't always jump on a moto and get there faster. So this is something that you need to consider if you're thinking about moving, retiring, or even visiting Bangkok, Thailand. Another huge con for me is that there is no clean drinking water, meaning you cannot drink water from the tap here in Thailand. To me, this is a huge inconvenience because every single time you need water, you have to go out and buy bottled water. Here, they don't even have the large tanks of water like you will see in places like Mexico, where you can purchase a large amount of water at the same time. They don't even have that here. Here, you actually have to purchase the bottles, and that gets old really fast. You're going to get really tired of always having to purchase water when you need it. And it's also an added expense. That's something that people don't talk about when they calculate the cost of living, the cost of food here in Thailand. That's an extra cost to always have to buy filtered or bottled water, increases your monthly expenses every single month. The third big con for me is the language barrier. If you're a person who has not had any experience with the Thai language, living in Thailand, specifically Bangkok, will be difficult for you. Now, the only people that tend to speak English, based on my experience, are people that work in places like the train station, obviously, people who work at the airport. People in very professional positions here tend to speak more English than the people who are in the non-professional positions. Now, if you're a person who enjoys kind of being more immersed in the culture, buying things like street food, going to different tours that are in local neighborhoods, then it's going to be really hard to navigate those situations when you're not fluent in the language, when you don't even know how to say a few sentences in Thai. It just gets old over time, constantly hearing a language that you don't understand and constantly having to respond in English. It is a huge con for anybody that's thinking about living, moving, or retiring in Thailand. And there are a lot of Americans and people from Europe and people from Canada that come here and do things like purchase apartments, get married, date without even knowing a sentence in the Thai language. I think that that's a huge mistake. And the language barrier for me is a huge con. The fourth con that I want to present to you is one that I haven't heard a lot of expats talk about here on YouTube, and that is the extremely high cost of flights and returning back to the United States or places like Canada if something happens in the United States with your family, with your health. If any situation happens in terms of an emergency, it is extremely expensive and tedious to actually leave Thailand. Do you know there are so many expats that are stuck here because of the extreme price that it would cost for them to leave Thailand? This is something you need to consider. For example, a last minute flight from Thailand all the way back to the United States is going to run you about $3,000 or more. This is not an easy thing to deal with. If you compare that to living in a place like Mexico, where you can hop on a flight for around $250 and get from Cancun back to any part of the United States, then that is an extreme difference. And I think it's a huge con that people really don't talk about. Not to mention the time commitment. It takes about 39 hours with all of the stops that you have to go through to be able to get back to the United States. So that's a huge con in my personal opinion. The fifth con that I want to talk about is the oftentimes extreme heat combined with air pollution can do a lot of damage to your physical health. Now, I don't hear a lot of people talking about this. I did see a couple of videos talking about the poor air quality here in Bangkok specifically, but I want to emphasize this as the fifth and final con in this video. If you're a person that's asthmatic, if you're a person that already has allergies, if you are a person that already has any type of breathing problems, then Thailand might not work for you. One of the things that you will see if you are living here is that people who have lived here a long period of time will go around wheezing and taking medication and having trouble breathing because of the amount of time they have been exposed to the poor air quality combined with the extreme heat and humidity. This is the fifth and final con I'm going to present, but I think it is very, very important for health reasons to consider this before coming to Thailand. In conclusion, I really like Thailand. I think it's a wonderful place to visit. If you ever have a chance to visit Thailand, I would highly recommend that you visit. But in my personal opinion, I have to be clear about the fact that Thailand, although it's very fun to visit, would not be a place that I would choose to live over many, many years. I just would not do it. So that's all I wanted to share in this video. If you have any comments or any questions that you want to share, feel free to drop down in the comments and let me know. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Next week, I'll be giving a full tour of my $600 apartment here in Bangkok, Thailand. If you're interested in watching that video, hit that subscribe button and I'll see you next week in the next video. Bye.